world thought Filipinos were done after the last record, but guess what? We just did it again. Filipinos have officially broken another world record, and this time it changes everything. If you're proud of Filipino achievements, smash that like button, subscribe, and type interested in the comments, and I'll give you a heart. The world thought Filipinos had already reached their peak with previous Guinness achievements, longest singing marathons, largest lantern displays, and massive human flags. But in 2025, the script flipped once again. Another Filipino world record has just been set, and this time it's not just impressive, it's transformative. This is the moment where pride crosses over into undeniable global recognition. The Philippines isn't just on the map anymore, it's carving the map. The latest Guinness record, the longest bamboo dance ever performed in history, involving more than 10,000 participants moving in perfect rhythm for hours, smashing the previous record by a wide margin. For outsiders, it looked like a cultural performance on steroids. For Filipinos, it was a declaration. We're still here, we're still breaking records, and you can't ignore us. But here's the thing, the world didn't expect it. For too long, record-breaking has been synonymous with big nations. Countries with billion-dollar budgets, flashy stadiums, and massive sponsorships, they thought global milestones belonged to the US, China, or Europe. They thought the Philippines was too small, too poor, too distracted by political drama to compete at this level. Then Filipinos proved them wrong. Again, with sheer community spirit, relentless practice, and a love for culture that runs deeper than ocean tides, they pulled it off. Not with unlimited money, but with unlimited heart. Guinness officials, stunned at the scale and precision, confirmed it on site. And when the certificate was raised, the cheers weren't just local, they echoed across Filipino communities worldwide. Take Maria, an OFW nurse in Dubai. She couldn't be at the event in person, but she watched it live on her phone between shifts. Tears welled up in her eyes as she messaged her kids back home. Anik, look at what our people just did. Never let anyone tell you Filipinos are small. We are giants. That's what this record symbolizes. It's not just an achievement. It's validation, pride, and hope rolled into one moment. This isn't the first time Filipinos shocked the world with records. In 2014, nearly 40,000 Filipinos gathered in Luneta Park to form the largest human flag. In Pampanga, the Giant Lantern Festival has long been recognized internationally for breaking design records. In music, the Philippines holds the longest karaoke marathons and still reigns as one of the most talented singing nations globally. But here's the hidden truth. These records aren't just about spectacle. They're about survival and spirit. While wealthier countries break records with cash, Filipinos break records with resilience. It's bayanahan, that cultural DNA of coming together, sacrificing personal time, and giving effort for the collective good. The world measures achievement in money, Filipinos measure it in heart. Then the global perspective shifts. When countries see Filipinos breaking records, they begin to connect the dots. Maybe that's why Filipinos are the backbone of global industries. Maybe that's why the Philippines supplies a quarter of the world's seafarers. Why Filipino nurses dominate in Japan and the US. Why even Silicon Valley firms now recruit Filipino coders. This world record is more than entertainment. It's a metaphor for a nation whose people are already woven into the rhythm of the world. Imagine the logistics. 10,000 bamboo dancers moving in sync for hours. It's more than a dance. It's proof of discipline, unity, and coordination. Traits you also find in Filipino workers abroad. And here's where the story deepens. When Guinness records Filipinos as the best at something, it reminds every employer, every government, every skeptic, Filipinos are not invisible. They are world class. And yet, behind the applause, there's still a deeper challenge. These records spark pride, but they also raise questions. Why does the Philippines have to prove itself again and again to be noticed? Why do Filipinos have to break records to earn the respect that should already be theirs? The truth is, history has overlooked us. Colonized, underestimated, and often exploited, Filipinos have had to shout twice as loud just to be heard. And this record is one more shout, a shout that says, we will no longer be ignored. Here's the twist. This bamboo dance wasn't just performed for Guinness. It was performed for the world stage. Social media clips went viral within hours, racking up millions of views. Global outlets picked it up, comment sections filled with admiration and disbelief. I didn't know the Philippines could do this, one commenter wrote. And that's exactly the point. People didn't know. Now they do. But the applause must turn into something more. Pride is powerful, but it fades if not used as leverage. That's where Filipinos worldwide must push. If we can break records in dance, in song, in sheer unity, then why not in policy, in innovation, in governance? Why not demand the same excellence from leaders that we demand from ourselves when we break records? Then the future changes. This record isn't the end, it's the start of a narrative shift. Filipinos are not just Guinness fillers. Filipinos are global game changers. And with each record, we add another brick to the foundation of global respect. If you're proud that Filipinos keep breaking barriers nobody thought we could, type respect in the comments right now. Let the world see how united we are. The Guinness certificate made headlines, but here's the truth nobody tells you. Filipinos have been breaking records quietly for decades. Records that never make the evening news, never trend on TikTok, but shape the way the entire planet runs. These aren't staged for cameras. They're lived every single day. Think about this. There are 12 million Filipinos overseas right now. That's the fourth largest diaspora in the entire world. If the Filipino diaspora were a country, it would be bigger than Greece, Portugal, or even Cuba. That's not just migration, that's a silent record. The largest mobile workforce shaping dozens of nations simultaneously. But ask yourself this, why doesn't Guinness record that? Why doesn't the world celebrate the fact that 1 out of every 4 seafarers keeping global trade alive is Filipino? Or that in Japan, more than 50,000 Filipinos work in healthcare and caregiving, filling gaps that no other nation could? Or that in Saudi Arabia, Filipinos make up nearly 20% of all foreign workers? These are records too, but because they don't fit into the neat category of fun or entertainment, they get ignored. Then comes the reveal. Countries themselves are starting to admit it. In 2025, both Malaysia and Singapore publicly stated that without Filipino workers, their households, their hospitals, and even their industries would collapse. That's not exaggeration, that's survival. And if you connect the dots, it means Filipinos hold the record as the most relied upon foreign workforce in the modern era. Take the oceans, for example. Over 400,000 Filipino seafarers man ships across the world, cargo ships, cruise liners, oil tankers. That's nearly 30% of the world's seafaring population. Without them, global trade halts, containers don't move, shelves go empty, fuel doesn't reach ports. Think about the irony. Some of the world's wealthiest economies depend on Filipinos to keep their systems alive, yet this invisible record rarely gets the recognition it deserves. Morgan Records started off like anyone else's record keeping. But here's the catch. These hidden records come with sacrifice. Families separated for years. Children growing up with one or both parents abroad. Homesickness that never quite goes away. The price of these records isn't measured in trophies. It's measured in tears, in remittances, in silent birthdays missed. And that's why these feats, as impressive as they are, deserve not just applause, but deep respect. Then the transformation begins. Every confession from a foreign leader, every admission that we need Filipinos shifts the balance. When the Japanese government increased its visa pathways in 2025, specifically for Filipino caregivers, it wasn't charity, it was recognition. When Australia opened more slots for Filipino construction workers and IT professionals, it wasn't generosity, it was necessity. These nations realized what Guinness hasn't put on paper yet. Filipinos already hold world records in resilience, adaptability, and indispensability. You think about technology. In Silicon Valley, the Filipino presence is quietly expanding. From software engineers in Google and Meta to startup founders building apps in fintech, Filipinos are breaking records in innovation. Not always the loud, publicized kind, but records that shape industries and futures. Or consider healthcare. In the United States alone, there are over 150,000 Filipino nurses, making up about 4% of the entire nursing workforce, the largest foreign-born group by far. That's a silent world record. And during COVID-19, when hospitals were collapsing, it was Filipinos who stood at the front lines, often sacrificing their own health. In fact, reports showed that Filipino nurses had disproportionately high death rates because they served in the toughest, riskiest jobs. That's a record paid in blood, and it should never be forgotten. But here's where the world misunderstands. They think these hidden records are just about labor. They're not. They're about culture, faith, and values. Why are Filipinos the world's most trusted caregivers? Because family and compassion are cultural foundations. Why are Filipinos so dominant in shipping? Because they adapt, endure, and innovate, even under the toughest conditions. Why are they everywhere from kitchens to boardrooms? Because language, resilience, and humor bridge gaps no textbook can teach. Then imagine the shift if these hidden records were recognized openly. Imagine Guinness certifying the Philippines is the #1 provider of global healthcare workers. Or the Philippines supplies the world's largest percentage of seafarers. Or Filipinos are the most multilingual workforce on the planet. Do you realize what that would mean? It would turn pride into power. It would turn invisibility into influence. And it would give the next generation of Filipinos a new lens to see themselves through. Stories like Juan, a seafarer who hasn't seen his family in over 2 years, yet continues because he knows his work keeps food on the table, not just for his kids, but indirectly for millions worldwide. Or Anna, a nurse in Tokyo who speaks Japanese fluently now and has become the head of her ward, a role Japanese colleagues admit no one else could fill. These are world records too, unrecorded, uncelebrated, but undeniable. And here's where it ties back to the Guinness bamboo dance. That performance was flashy, yes. It drew cameras, yes. But behind it lies the daily rhythm of millions of Filipinos breaking records quietly without applause. The bamboo dance is symbolic. It shows the world what Filipinos already do every single day. They move in sync, they carry the weight, they make the impossible look effortless. But here's the challenge, the danger, is that these records remain hidden forever, known to Filipinos, but not recognized by the global system. And when achievements remain invisible, respect comes slowly, sometimes not at all. That's why videos like this matter. That's why telling these stories matters. Because if the world won't give us certificates, we'll make them see anyway. Then the hope. With more recognition comes more bargaining power, better wages, better treatment, better policies, and most importantly, restored dignity for Filipinos everywhere. Comment pride if you believe the world should recognize every Filipino record, not just the ones that make it into Guinness. Let's flood the comments with pride until nobody can ignore it. The Guinness World Record was just the spark. The hidden records, the nurses, the seafarers, the overseas workers, the innovators, those were the fuel. Put them together, and suddenly you realize this isn't just about a moment of pride. It's about a shift in power. Filipinos are no longer standing quietly in the background of history. They're stepping into the spotlight, whether the world is ready or not. For decades, the Philippines was called a developing country, a polite way of saying not yet. The image was always the same, a nation rich in culture but poor in opportunity, a people known for talent but often trapped in low-paying roles abroad. And for decades, that label stuck. But every time a Filipino breaks a record, official or unofficial, it chips away at that stereotype. Every Guinness certificate held high is another brick removed from the wall of doubt. Every confession from a foreign leader, from Singapore admitting its survival depends on Pinoy workers, to Japan praising the discipline of Filipino caregivers, is another crack in the old narrative. Then the transformation happens. Filipinos are no longer just migrants. They're the beating heart of global systems. Think about it. 12 million Filipinos overseas means 1 in every 10 Filipinos lives and works abroad. They send home $38.3 billion, 0 cents in remittances annually, almost 8% of the Philippines' GDP. That's not just money, that's leverage. That's proof that the Filipino identity is not confined to one nation's borders. It's global. But here's the twist. Recognition abroad doesn't automatically mean transformation at home. In fact, it reveals a contradiction. Filipinos are praised overseas, yet still undervalued in their own homeland. Nurses in the US are hailed as heroes. Nurses in the Philippines often struggle on meager pay. Engineers thrive in Dubai. At home, they're underemployed. Singers fill stadiums in Hong Kong. At home, they fight for scraps in the entertainment industry. But this is exactly why breaking records matters. Each world record isn't just an achievement to celebrate. It's a bargaining chip. It forces governments, employers, and even our own leaders to acknowledge the obvious. Filipinos are not replaceable. They are not cheap labor. They are essential. And when the world starts admitting it, the Philippines has the chance, maybe for the first time in history, to turn that recognition into policy, progress, and prosperity. Then imagine the future. What if every remittance sent home was matched with government programs that invest in education, health, and infrastructure? What if instead of brain drain, we created brain circulation, where Filipinos leave, learn, and return with new skills to build stronger industries at home? What if Guinness records were just the beginning of a culture of winning in innovation, in governance, in leadership? Picture it, a Filipino-led tech company that dominates Southeast Asia. A Filipino scientist awarded the Nobel Prize. A Filipino city that becomes the new Singapore of the Pacific. These aren't fantasies. They're possibilities waiting for the same determination that broke bamboo dance records and singing marathons. And let's not forget the diaspora. Overseas Filipinos aren't just record breakers abroad. They're ambassadors, connectors, and bridges. They speak dozens of languages, adapt to countless cultures, and still carry with them the same values of bayanihan and resilience. That's not just manpower, that's soft power. That's influence money can't buy. But here's the risk. If the Philippines doesn't seize this moment, the world will. Other countries are already crafting policies to attract, use, and depend on Filipino talent. Japan has created special visa programs for caregivers. Canada has pathways for Filipino immigrants. Even Israel is opening more slots for Filipino workers. These nations see the value. The danger is if the Philippines doesn't, if it continues to export talent without building systems that bring the benefits home, then the urgency becomes clear. Filipinos breaking records is more than just pride. It's a warning. Respect must follow recognition, or the cycle continues. Because if the world benefits from Filipinos, but the Philippines itself does not, we'll remain stuck in the same story: proud people, struggling nation. And that's not the history Filipinos deserve. The good news? The tide is turning. With every viral video, every confession, every Guinness headline, more people wake up to the truth. Employers think twice before underpaying. Governments negotiate harder for OFW protection. Filipino youth scrolling through their feeds start believing in possibilities bigger than their parents ever had. This is why the phrase, "Filipinos just broke another world record," isn't just a sentence. It's a signal that history is shifting, that the world must stop underestimating a nation that keeps proving it can't be held down. And maybe the most powerful part is this: records unite. When that Guinness certificate is raised, every Filipino, from the seafarer in Greece to the nurse in London, from the teacher in Japan to the construction worker in Qatar, feels a surge of belonging. For a moment, borders disappear, politics fade, and identity becomes clear. We are Filipinos, we are record breakers, and we are visible. Drop the word visible in the comments if you agree it's time Filipinos stop being hidden in the shadows and finally get the full recognition they deserve, at home and around the world. This is more than just another Guinness headline. This is history. And history, once written, cannot be erased. The world may have doubted Filipinos before, but today they can no longer ignore them. Because once you've broken records again and again, the message is undeniable. Filipinos don't just participate in history, Filipinos make history. And that changes everything.